Welcome to WACSUN Weekly. WACSUN Weekly is the official Western Athletic and ASUN Conference podcast of FCS Fans Nation. WACSUN Weekly is hosted by Dustin Helton, Brandon Owens, and Will Seiler.
Welcome back, FCS Fans Nation, to another episode of WACSUN Weekly. This is the third installment here of the new podcast, third and a half if you count the halftime episode. And we're through week one, and I'm excited. Football is truly back now, and we can talk full slate. We have a lot of games to talk about right now. So, but first, tell me how you spent your week one. We'll start with you, Brandon.
I spent it in Jacksonville, Alabama. I went to the Jacksonville State Davidson game. I actually had some students participating in band day, so I went to go support them.
Is that is band day pretty big in Jacksonville State? Like big turnout as far as crowd goes?
We had to limit it to 1,000 students this year, and we had 1,000 students. And we usually have about 2,000 students.
What was the attendance like total for the game?
Because of the away side being like part of it being blocked off and there being no stands over there, our seating capacity is down to, I think, about 20,000, and we almost hit capacity. I think it was like just a little over 18,000.
That's awesome. Big time. Rev, let me know how you spent your week one.
I spent my week one watching Jacksonville State fans be pissed off that they can't compete for the conference championship.
Hey, at least I came around.
And I spent it grilling out watching football, but really enjoying the flaming I saw from Jacksonville State fans who just lost their heads about not being able to compete for a championship that they're already had an advantage on. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The meltdowns were epic. Not yours, Brandon, not your comments. I'm talking about just in general and on the ASUN page and all that, just the amounts of just pure just pissed off they were. It made my heart warm. I felt fuzzy.
Yeah, I was ready to pick fights with people on Twitter. There were some Jacksonville State guys that every time I would just reply to whoever I would see complaining about it, except for Brandon, because I was like, okay, I don't want to get an argument with Brandon. But no, they had a meltdown. We broke Jacksonville State Twitter as vicious as it already was. It broke this weekend.
Well,
I mean, there were people emailing the commissioner.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I messaged our group chat, wanting to talk about it because my whole stance was basically you made this decision back in May or June and waited until just now to tell us. I had no issue being ineligible. None whatsoever.
I think the disconnect, honestly, my theory is that they didn't think about football when they gave the decision, because you have to understand this is a league with a rich history in baseball and basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they were thinking about football when they made the decision. And I that doesn't, take any blame away from them. Yes, they should have thought about it, but at the same time, Jacksonville State fans should have used their better judgment and been like, hey, they're saying this, maybe we should ask them, wait, for football too? Because that doesn't make any sense. And so I think both parties have a little bit to learn from the whole situation. But, it was funny. But, I mean, I don't think there's much to talk about with it as far as the situation goes, because it's no. They made the right decision.
Yeah. It was just funny. It was just great. It was it was just enjoyable.
Oh man, it was funny. When I saw somebody had emailed the commissioner, when I saw somebody had emailed Ted and posted his response on Twitter, screenshotted it and posted it, I was you're trying to expose the guy, and for what? What are you gonna do? But anyway, I think Ted does a good job, and he owns up to like potential mistakes, and that this was no different. He even came out and said, like, I should have made this more clear at the beginning that football's different. We're awarding our conference championship to a FCS program. And so I admire him for coming out and at least saying, like, hey, we should have said this a little bit earlier. And it wasn't like he blamed anybody else. He was like, this is on me. But at the same time, I think Jacksonville State fans probably should have thought through that one a little more. But anyway.
Including myself.
Oh, gosh. Was that Friday night or Thursday night?
No, that was like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was almost a week ago.
The gift that I could think of that was just like the whole situation when you were texting the group chat was the Elmo with his hands raised in the fire. It was freaking anarchy in the group chat. And I was like, he is in all caps. He is yelling.
He is not using proper grammar. That's how angry he was.
I was not using proper grammar.
Oh, the pass. Oh, whatever. We'll move on from that. But that was.
We don't want to divulge.
We could spend
the group chat stays in the group chat.
We could. We can post the screenshots, but we won't.
We won't. Let's just say it makes for great reading. It should be released on Kindle at some point.
Absolutely. But moving on, we're just gonna go ahead and start recapping some week 1 scores. I'll read them off here, and then we can talk about big ones. Obviously, there's games we don't really need to talk about. On Thursday, actually, these are not in any specific order. Missouri State knocked off UCA 27-14 in Conway. Stephen F. Austin narrowly got out of Alcorn State with a win, 31-27. Jacksonville State did beat Davidson 35-17. We want to talk about that one.
No, we will not.
Indiana State got a close one over North Alabama, 17-14. Samford over Kennesaw, 27-17. Big surprise there. Eastern Michigan pulled away late. Really, I don't know. I wouldn't say pulled away late, but get ahead of Kentucky, 42-34. Austin Peay just shellacked Presbyterian, 63-0. Abilene, 28-14 over Lamar. Closer maybe than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Utah over St. Thomas. One that Brandon picked right, but Rev, you picked it wrong, and I picked it wrong, right?
You let me down, Tommies. You let me down.
I know. And then Tarleton over Mississippi Valley State. I won't say Missouri Valley. 29-13. And then, obviously, Texas A&M over Sam Houston. So we'll just jump right into it. What results maybe intrigued you, surprised you, that you want to talk about? We'll start with you, Rev.
Honestly, everybody's going to talk about that Samford and Kennesaw State score, but to me, I was a little worried even picking Kennesaw State with how the new blocking rules were going to impact the triple option, and it looks like that it's had an impact on some of the triple option teams, and we've seen that this weekend, like with Navy losing to Delaware, such like that. You're not able to get your option. You're not able to get the blocks set up that you want, and to get the ball moving. The game that I think is more signifying what the year could be, it's that Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Michigan game. I thought Eastern Kentucky was going to pull the scalp, and they came pretty damn close. And their offense looked great. Parker McKinney had himself a game. It makes me think that Eastern Kentucky might be undervalued and underranked in some people's polls if they go do like Amy Williams, do the full 130. They are probably going to be a much better team than anyone expected them to be this year. And SFA won, but we don't have to talk about that.
Well, I want to talk about that one. Brandon, what results intrigued you?
Rev touched on Kennesaw and Samford. I personally think, and I can't remember who on the Big Boy show. I can't. Yes,
the best.
I can't remember. I can't remember who said it, but they said Samford might be a big contender for the SoCon championship this year. And after seeing how well they contained the triple option and contained a powerhouse like Kennesaw State. Wow, I almost said a high school from the area. But I think they are right. I think Samford might be surprising some people this year. There's a few other games too, but I paid more attention to the Kennesaw and Samford game than I did any other game.
Samford's front seven looked awesome, incredibly awesome.
They looked so good,
and they could easily stop the rushing attack that ETSU has. They could easily shut down Mercer. There's so many teams that they match up well against in that conference.
The only one that I don't think they can that they will beat is Chattanooga. I still have Chattanooga as my SoCon champion. But I mean, we don't have to get into that. But I that's the only team I don't think Samford will be able to beat this year in the SoCon.
Yeah.
I think you guys touched on the ones that I want to talk about really, but SFA, I do want to talk about them a little bit with Alcorn. That one was a lot closer. I know I take these picks lightheartedly. I really do, because what does it matter? I sometimes pick because I think it's funny, but I really did think SFA would win by more than 4. So when I looked and saw, you couldn't watch the game. That was upsetting.
Well,
yeah,
you could. There was a way you
but
could
it was
stream.
Premium content.
Yeah, I mean, there was no free streaming on it. You had to listen to either a radio broadcast or pay Alcorn State, and even the stream quality wasn't worth the money, to be honest with you.
So
get your stuff together, Alcorn.
Yeah, and I didn't expect a super high quality broadcast from Alcorn State, but so I didn't buy it. But so I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't on ESPN Plus. But just following the score, I was trying to get stats up, but my phone is whack right now. It looked like SFA fell behind pretty early, and it wasn't necessarily like just a 2-point game. Like they fell behind pretty big.
They were down. I can't remember if it was 24-10 or 24 something at halftime. They just their rushing defense in the first half, their whole defense was incredibly uninspired, and then in the second half they kicked it in and they played 2 quarters of inspired football. And I don't want to go off on a rev rant here early, but I've said this on Twitter all week. There's been 7 quarters of football played this year for SFA because the Jacksonville State game was called early. They've only played 3 quarters of inspired ball. If they're going to win and be the team that everybody thinks they're going to be, they have to play 4 quarters of inspired ball. I don't know what it'll take if it's getting knocked down in the polls and knocked out of some people's polls for them to stop eating their own cheese and get focused on what they have to do. What's interesting to me, if you look at the stats of that game, though, Xavier Gibson, 0 yards receiving. He was completely shut down that game, and they depended on everybody else on the offense to get the win in the second half.
To score 31 points without arguably the best receiver in the FCS touching the ball any yards. I don't know if he touched the ball or not, but no production, I guess, but still score 31 points. It's pretty impressive. But I think that does put you at a little bit of an advantage as the year goes on. If people key on him and you learn to, lean other places in your offense, I think fine. I've talked about UCA doing that which I know we had 2 receivers, but when they would shut both of them down, it opened up other things. So, yeah. Any other games that you guys want to hit on before we get to the fun segment in the middle?
Probably the obvious one, Missouri State and UCA.
That one.
Again, like I just like the entire season last year with UCA. UCA underperformed in this game. They did not perform up to most people's standards as far as like keeping it close.
I don't think you can say that we underperformed because who knew what we were going to perform like this year? I mean, you're talking half the rosters new. I mean, half the dressed out players on Thursday night weren't on the roster last year. And so I don't know what the expectations were. I was listening to the coaches show and they were talking about Will McIlvain, who I know some people aren't fans of. But Dustin and Jamie. But he hadn't played a game of football in a year and a half. And so
there's a reason for that.
Okay, whatever. So when he showed, flashes of good football, he showed flashes of really accurate passing, and he showed some flashes of good decision making and using his feet. Well, I mean, he scored a touchdown on the ground. He basically walked in there. It was like 12 yards, but that was something that we might not have been able to do last year. And he did make a couple bad decisions, one on a 3rd and long, but we had to drop back and pass pretty much the entire second half. You also have to understand, though, that game was 0-0 going into the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, and we gave up 17 points in 5 minutes. And so, I mean, I don't know that you can say we underperformed. I think it was disappointing because I think maybe I hoped that we would come out and just have gelled, over camp immediately. But I'm playing in a 5-team country, so I wouldn't say we necessarily overperformed because 7 of those points came on a kick return. We only gave up 20 points. Defense played really well. Defensive line played really well.
I was well, as far as rushing goes, y'all held them to under 100 yards rushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would have been under 50 had it not been for Shelley scrambling all the time. He in the second half, we had to sell out with some pressure, and we would get to him, but he would get out, and he might scamper for 22 yards. So, anyway.
I don't know if you say underperform. It's almost the same acronym that said for part of SFA. It's uninspired. It was very uninspired football. Your special teams play was atrocious. That was, I mean, how many missed field goals did you have? 2, 3? Like
2.
2, yeah, 2 missed field goals. And I mean, missed field goals can completely shift momentum in a game. And I was going to mention too the kick return that y'all gave up. I mean, your defense didn't play too bad. Your offense just didn't look like it was quite clicking on all cylinders. Like it probably will here in the next couple of weeks. So it just seemed it's uninspired. And I think had you played Missouri State maybe later on in the year, it might have been a more closer competitive game. But at the same time, they also might have gotten their stuff together and gone out and just been a powerhouse. So I don't know. I hope for good things for UCA, except for on November 12th. But I don't think I would say they underperformed by any means.
Yeah, I mean, we had
for the next week.
Screw you guys.
It'd be awesome if you could get it. It'd be awesome. Two back-to-back losses.
Yeah. We had 2 backs.
2 weeks for this podcast.
Okay, somebody else can host it. I'll magically not be here.
I will say though, y'all looked pretty balanced offense-wise.
A lot more balanced than we have been in the past.
As far as as far as like rushing and passing yards, like it was very even.
We had 2 backs go for. I mean, obviously we had Darius Hale at 99 yards, and then Kyle and James had, I want to say, like 84, something like that. So I mean, you had 2 backs that almost went for 100, and both had over 100 all-purpose. So I mean, you've definitely got some weapons on the field, and as the offense, I think I was listening to the coach's show. They had the coordinators on, and they were talking to the offensive coordinator, and he was talking about how he called a lot more drop back passes than maybe he probably will in the future because he thought that would get McElvain's legs going a little bit. He thought that like as the pocket collapsed, we might be able to see some quarterback scrambles, and he was like, it didn't produce as much as I wanted, so maybe we'll stick to some play action stuff if the run's working like it did. So I mean, but you look at special teams, 13 points left on the field, 7 from a kick return touchdown for Missouri State, 6 in missed field goals for UCA. You negate those, it's 20-20.
Yep.
So special teams was the difference in the game. And I'm not one to blame a kicker. I'm not going to do it ever because I what it's to be in that situation. But special teams was definitely the difference. Just the whole third phase of football was the difference in that game.
So I want to say something nice about UCA. I don't know if it was the mood lighting of the night at the stadium. I don't know if it was the whiskey. I don't know if the college football stadium tour gentleman was there with you, but the field did not kill my eyes on TV. Like it actually was nice and soothing. It was nice and soothing, and it wasn't as retina destroying as it's seen in previous years. Excuse me.
Oh, well, I'll say this. We do have new stripes. They installed them last year. And they are a little bit darker. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe, it just doesn't like radiate so many lumens back into your soft eyes. But I think it looks fantastic, but I thought the old ones did too. So
yeah, sorry about that. I try to say something nice and I get a frog in my throat, but yeah. But no, like it looked good. It all looked good. I mean, the crowd sounded good. Like it. I mean, it looked like a good turnout. So,
technically, it was a sellout. If you say that like attendance was like 10,300, something like that, and technically the stadium holds 10,000, but we can fit 12. So,
all right.
Anyway, well, I do want to mention Jacksonville State. Did they show a little bit of vulnerability? Or
what do you mean?
You let Davidson score 17 points on you. Come on, come on,
dude. Do you realize how long Davidson had the ball for?
But last week on the podcast, you were talking about like I don't think Davidson's gonna score.
In fact, we should edit this before it goes out and put that audio in there if we can.
I might have overestimated how long Davidson could hold the ball. I was mainly going off of the last time, and granted, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I mean, when you're playing a triple option team, like you can't avoid how you can't escape that that triple option team is going to hold the ball longer than you. So, I mean, the fact that we scored 35 points in less than 20 minutes of holding the ball, like I consider that even a win against a triple option team. Because we did some, I mean, I wouldn't say we stopped the run, but I mean, we had a pretty good rushing defense from what I was seeing.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get to watch much of it, but I just thought the score reflected a closer game than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, no. JSU dominated. It was just the fact that Davidson held the ball for so long.
I kept looking back because the ASUN tweets, they live tweet games for whatever reason, like school do already. And I kept getting notifications because I'm subscribed to their tweets that was like, oh my God, Jacksonville State recovers a fumble. And so I was like, that game's got to be like 40-0 at this point. And I logged on and it's like 21-10 or something. I don't know what the score was, but it was something a lot closer than I was expecting to see. And so I was like, I guess it was just the feeling that I got like from keeping up with the score that it wasn't as like a dominant performance as I thought it was going to be, but
no,
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, JSU did dominate. I mean, they forced 5 fumbles and recovered 3. It was just the fact that Davidson is a run dominant team. I mean, when you're running the ball, the clock continues to tick down. So like they're holding the ball for almost 3/4 of the game. So I mean, there's nothing you can do about that.
I want to do that. I want to hold the ball for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was a great, not 30 minutes.
It was a great win. It was a great win for something that doesn't matter at the end of the year, but it was a great win. So,
hey, our goal is to. Well, I'm not gonna say that.
Just poking the
Jacksonville State did only have 300 yards of offense, though. But I guess if you didn't have the ball very long, that's why. But,
or if you're getting the ball on there, I mean, and in positive territory because you're forcing fumbles and stuff. I mean, that could also be it too. So
yeah,
you don't see this every day too. Jacksonville State had the exact same number of passing yards as they did running, down to the yard, 158. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we played a pretty even offense, or we had a pretty even offensive game on Saturday. So it's kind of refreshing to see a more balanced offense now rather than either pass dominant or run dominant. It's very refreshing to see an even play for offense.
Sure, I feel that.
Yep.
All right, well, we have talked, I think, enough about week 1 games, and I got an idea today listening to the so-called Big Boy podcast here on the FCS Fans Nation Network, which if you do not subscribe, please go ahead and do that. There's like 9 podcasts now. And I failed to say this. I failed to say this the first 2 episodes, but make sure you join the Facebook page too. That's where everything happens. Like I know we have podcasts coming at you here, but join the Facebook page. Just search FCS Fans Nation. There's like 13,000 people on there now. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, I digress. I had this idea listening to the Big Boy podcast when they were talking about overreactions to do an overreaction segment of our own, because that's the best thing to do after week 1 is overreact and do what I did last year and think that UCA is going to go to the semifinals after week 1. But anyway, so we're going to make some overreaction statements here. Everybody's going to go. I'll go last. I'll let you guys decide who gets to go first, and whoever wants to take it can just take it away and give me your most outlandish overreaction, or maybe even one that might come true at the end of the season.
All right, I got mine. Eastern Kentucky's going to win the auto bid. That's mine. Eastern Kentucky, after the way they performed against Eastern Michigan, the way their offense is looking, they, not SFA, not Kennesaw, not UCA, not Austin Peay, and definitely not Jacksonville State. Eastern Kentucky will be in the playoffs, and they will win the auto bid. That's my overreaction for the week. It'll change next week, I'm sure.
We'll have week 8 overreaction.
So my overreaction, and I'm going to piss off an entire fan base when I say this, and I do not care. Kennesaw State will finish near the bottom of the ASUN this year, and it's primarily due to how they performed against Sanford and how that blocking rule is preventing them from running the triple option like they have in the past.
That is, man, that is an overreaction, because I don't think that they'll finish toward the bottom. I know everybody's talking about this blocking rule, and yes, it is going to have an effect. But if Brian Bohannon, is that his first name, Brian? I know it's Bohannon.
Yeah.
Anyway, if he is a decent head coach and their offensive coordinator is decent, they'll adjust because they've got athletes to run the football. So I don't think they'll finish to the bottom. They've got some really talented athletes, and Xavier Shep is pretty good. I mean, he's going to be able to run the ball on whoever he plays. And if they start throwing the ball a little bit, he's shown, he's shown some flashes of being able to throw the ball. So I don't think that'll happen, but I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's less likely to happen than Eastern Kentucky. I'll go ahead and give you mine. I think Jacksonville State will be undefeated at the end of the year in FCS football games. And that includes every ASUN WAC game they play. I think they will look back and I think that the auto bid not going to them will actually apply, because I think that they would have won it. So I think it looked really good against SFA. I think, as much as I hate to say it, Rich Rod has a pretty good offense. Zion Webb looks pretty good. He's a true dual threat guy, and his arm has come a long way. So yeah, I think they're going to go undefeated, and that's my overreaction. And I hope it's not true. I hope
it probably is true. Let's be honest.
I hope they lose every other game they play this year. But that's my overreaction. So
my way outlandish one was going to be that Southern Utah wins the WAC, based off of how they performed against St. Thomas. They looked like a completely different team than we've seen from previous years. Now, granted, part of it, St. Thomas is still coming from D3 to D1. They've still got D3 players on their team. They did go 6-4 last year, I believe, and the Pioneer finished second. They weren't a bad team, but I think as the season goes on, SUU is going to show who they really are. But, maybe they won't be a 1-10 team this year. Maybe they'll be, 4-6, or 4-7 or 5-6, somewhere in there. Maybe they'll show the improvement that you would expect to see out of them, to where they're not such a complete bottom feeder as they've been for the past 4 years.
Yeah, I really expected that St. Thomas game to be closer, and I guess I was in the group of people that, was it Matt Frazee on there that was talking about all the Dakota people that thought St. Thomas was going to come in and roll, like they didn't have D3 athletes on the roster. And I was like, okay, I guess that was me. I just assumed that culture wins ball games, but I was wrong. That was bad.
If there's anything I've learned, is that if Matt Frazee backs your team in the fall, your team is going to be riddled with low performance versus the expectations. So I would like to thank Matt for personally sabotaging the Stephen F. Austin Lumberjack football season this year. So thanks, Matt. Appreciate the koozie though. So
going back to Jacksonville State, I really thought this was a decent overreaction, but it's really not.
It's not, no, because
they should win every game left on their schedule.
Yeah, I think they have FBS. They have Tulsa.
They have Tulsa.
Tulsa after this week.
They might
have Murray State and then Tulsa. I don't know.
No, we will beat Tulsa. Tulsa.
I'm not going to say you will beat Tulsa, but Wyoming beat Tulsa.
Yeah, and
Wyoming's not very good.
Wyoming got blown out this past week.
Wyoming beat Tulsa this past week, did they not?
No, yeah. Wyoming.
No, that
was it?
Yeah, it was 9-3.
Yeah, see, they got blown out the week before whenever they played.
Who am I thinking of?
No, Wyoming got blown out.
Wyoming has played 2 games.
Yeah, they played week 0 against
Illinois.
Somebody in the middle. Yeah, Illinois. I was like somebody in the Midwest. So, and got just boat raced by them.
So I think Jacksonville State could seriously do that. So maybe that's not an overreaction. I was gonna use Austin Peay because they've looked. I think this is an overreaction because it was Presbyterian that they played, and Presbyterian's terrible. But so yeah, I can roll with this one too. Austin Peay is gonna be that like. I think Austin Peay could win the auto bid with Jacksonville State not being eligible because their quarterback has looked really good. Well, I don't know what's proper there. He threw for like 300 yards against Presbyterian. I'm pretty sure he only played like 2.5 quarters. So he looked good the week before that against Western Kentucky. They looked good against Western Kentucky as a team. They were in that game late. So I don't know. Maybe Austin Peay's coming out of the cellar, coming back to the glory from a couple years ago and going to make the playoffs. I think I'll roll with that one.
Awesome.
That's a good
I think
one.
Austin Peay's that like next level from Jacksonville State down. That's going to be my overreaction. Because I think it is, because Presbyterian's terrible. So I don't think I can really grade Austin Peay based on Presbyterian. But
and let's be honest, Western Kentucky, they Bailey Zappi didn't play that first game, and like that, I mean, he was what really carried them last year. So that that could also be more of an indication of WKU sliding down just a little bit. But I said whenever we were talking about teams that could compete for a third or not large bid, I said Austin Peay could be in there, and I still stand by that. Especially with Jacksonville State not being eligible. Not trying to put salt in the wound there, Brandon, but just saying with the statement, like,
did you guys know that Jacksonville State not eligible? I just got that headline actually that Jacksonville State's not eligible for the.
Oh, it's breaking on Twitter, guys.
Crazy. It's crazy.
ESPN alert. Phone's going crazy.
Oh, me.
Teacher.
All right. Anybody else have any outlandish overreactions before we move on?
I have one, but I don't want to say it because it is so bad.
Let's hear it.
UNA will finish top 3 in the ASUN this year.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
See?
Not a chance.
They looked really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, they didn't look good.
Yeah. They did not look good that game.
Do you see why I said I didn't want to say it?
But then again, nobody did in the ASUN look really good other than Jacksonville State. So, I mean, Eastern looked decent. Right. So maybe the ASUN is just not as good as we thought. And I don't know. Every time I checked scores, I was like, dadgummit, every ASUN school's getting beat.
I think that's your overreaction just now, basically.
It could be. Is that ASUN was overhyped?
Yeah. I think as you go through, it's week 1. It's, for most schools, it's week 2 for a couple, but it's week 1. Settle down. Okay. Like, you see, especially now with the way the transfer portal works with teams coming in, getting new players, the way they're gelling in, it's week 1. Don't freak out over a week 1 game. It's fun to do overreactions, but I don't think the ASUN is as bad. I think that for the most part, the teams in the ASUN played really stiff competition. The teams that that matched up well against them. So I wouldn't all of a sudden say, oh man, the Southland is better than ASUN, because we know that's not true. So I would just hold off on that one.
Yeah, I don't remember who I was talking to that was like, well, maybe the Southland's not that bad. Look at McNeese. They, went up to Montana State and played well. And I was like, okay, technically Montana State and Missouri State are like on the same like tier right now. They're both top 5. And believe it or not, McNeese got blown out. Like, I know they hung for a little bit, but they still got beat 40 to like 17.
Yeah.
UCA, at least that game was a lot closer than it looked. So I don't know. I agree that the overreaction of the week for the entire conference is that the ASUN was overhyped. I think Kennesaw will figure it out. I really do. I think they'll end up being good. I think they'll end up being a top 20 team. They may not be a semifinal team like a lot of people thought they were going to be, but I think they'll slide into the top 20, like pretty solid at the end of the year. But all right, guys, let's preview some week 2 games. There's a ton of them, but not a lot of good ones. I'm just being honest. There's not. Southern Utah at Utah. SFA at La Tech. That'll be a good. North Arizona at Sam Houston. Tarleton at TCU. Prairie View A&M at Abilene. UCA at Ole Miss. Kennesaw at Cincinnati. Mississippi Valley State. I'm not going to say Missouri Valley State. At Austin P. EKU at Bowling Green. Jacksonville State at Murray State. And Virginia Wise at UNA. And there is a game that I left off. I can't remember which one it was because it was like an NAIA team. But then I put Virginia Wise on there. There's somebody that I left off. I don't know who.
Hold on.
It might have been Utah Tech.
Yeah, they're playing Chadron, whatever that school is in Nebraska. D2, Chadron, however you say it.
Yeah. So I did leave them off, but I don't know that one. I'll just go ahead and give you my pick on that one. Utah Tech wins.
Utah Tech.
I don't know. Chadron has usually had some players on it, but I'm going to give it to the Trailblazers. I'm going to give it to Trailblazers, I think.
I agree. So we'll just kick it off at the top. Southern Utah at Utah. Sorry, Utes probably come away with this one.
Yeah, Utes big.
Yeah.
Like extremely big.
Yeah, they're gonna that's gonna be over at halftime. Utah, huge.
That'll be over before time. Stephen F. Austin at La Tech. This one is an interesting one because I think with SFA seeing, like you said, that they can play inspired football and can play decent and look good and do it without Xavier Gibson having to be the forefront of the offense. Maybe now that people are like, oh, SFA is not any good, maybe it's the reverse psych stuff, opposite of the hype that they got preseason. Maybe they play well. Maybe they go to Ruston and win. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's the problem with SFA football. It's their Jekyll and Hyde, or Jackal and Hyde, if you really want to tie into the mascot, right? It's like you don't know what you're going to get. If they can play how they expect, Louisiana Tech is not a good FBS team. What's funny is they hired a lot of SFA's coaching staff, and then a lot of that staff went with Sonny Dice to TCU, and so now it's the Cumbie area era there. So I don't know. I'm going to pick Louisiana Tech. And it's just because I don't know what we're going to see out of SFA. And I hope I'm wrong. The homer in me wants to pick SFA, but we don't know. And we don't know what team we're going to get that's coming out on Saturday. So because of that, I'm just going to take Louisiana Tech because they are home and they are FBS. But I'm hoping for a Jacks win.
I'm actually going to pick SFA in this one. And I think it's because they had a scare against Alcorn State and a team that they should have handily beat. So I think that's going to be inspiration enough to play focused, disciplined football against a very bad FBS team and get another win on the season.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pick SFA because all the FCS scalps that I pick just never happen. But I do think this is interesting too because, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, La Tech has to go to Clemson next week. So it's going to be really easy to look over your FCS opponent when you've got top 5 Clemson lurking on the horizon. I really got to get a better mic stand. I think you could definitely look past an FCS opponent, especially a talented FCS opponent that has some FBS talent on the roster. SFA's got some FBS size on the roster, so I think you could see maybe an upset happen. I'm not going to pick it though because logically it should happen. But so I'm going to roll with Louisiana Tech, but only because my head tells me to. Did we lose Rev? Is he frozen?
I think so.
Okay. Well, it's just me and you.
All right.
We'll
around the ASUN.
This is around the ASUN. Welcome back to Around the ASUN. You didn't know that this podcast was coming back. We'll just move right along. There he is. Moving on down, Northern Arizona at Sam Houston State. I don't know what to think about Sam Houston. They look decent, honestly, against Texas A&M for a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually impressed.
I watched
holding a top, top 10 team? They're six.
Yeah.
Holding a top 10 FBS team to only 31 points, I was very
impressed.
Impressive.
I watched that game up until the weather delay, and then I quit watching it. And then when it came back on, they kicked it to ESPN 3 or something. But I think Sam Houston wins this one easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought their defense played really well. Obviously, the offense was against good Texas A&M defense. We saw how good their defense was last year. So I think they win this one pretty easy against the Lumberjacks. Rev, do you agree?
Yeah, Sam Houston rarely loses at home, and this won't be an exception. They'll roll through this one pretty easily.
They'll probably have like 25,000 fans there. It'll be crazy.
All right, there's the shade.
It's fine. If they were gonna be FCS next year, I wouldn't throw it, but they won't be. Moving down, Tarleton at TCU. Sorry, Tarleton.
Yeah,
I like you, but
TCU's not good. But Tarleton, I mean, you want to talk about underperforming against Mississippi Valley State University? That was a game they should have blown them out on, and they didn't. They didn't look great. I mean, they got a win and a win to win, but they didn't look that strong. And and TCU probably just destroyed them in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at like the SWAC teams that WACSUN schools are playing. Alcorn's not that long from being in the Celebration Bowl. Like it was like 2 years ago that they were in the Celebration Bowl, 3 years ago, something like that. I mean,
yeah, something like that.
It hasn't been that long. Like they've got some recent history of being good, and Mississippi Valley does not. So I would say they underperformed as well. I'm gonna roll with the Horned Frogs.
Yep.
Isn't that what they do? Something like that.
Something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. All the hand signs in Texas. Moving on down, UCA at Ole Miss. It's an FBS game. It's a game we played in 2012. We were leading going into the fourth quarter. I think we were leading like halfway through the fourth quarter and ended up losing by like 27. So you see how those games can get away from you. Hopefully we keep it close. We're getting a different quarterback. They're not starting Jackson Dart from USC. They're starting Luke Altmaier, the kid from Starkville. So what are your thoughts, if you have any?
I want to pick UCA. I just think Ole Miss is actually going to finish in the top 3 in the West this year. So with that being said, sorry UCA. I'm going with the Reds. Hotty toddy.
I don't have any problems somebody picking Ole Miss. I mean, it's a game you're not supposed to win.
It'd be awesome if UCA could pick up that win.
It would be. But, I mean, we also sat here a year ago, and we were like, Florida State, Jacksonville State, sorry. Like, I just can't pick Jacksonville State. And then they did it. So, it's one of those things. There's no rhyme or reason to when an FCS team knocks off an FBS team. And so, it's like, I don't know. On paper, this game should be a, 40-point game. But we'll see.
Right.
Rev, do you have any thoughts? I mean, it's not exactly a big matchup.
I was checking something real quick. I was looking to see who Ole Miss had the week after, and it's Georgia Tech. So they're not even going to be looking past Central Arkansas for Georgia Tech. So sorry. If they had like something else, like a ranked matchup, I could see where this could be a trap game with them. But it's not. It's that. I don't think that's going to be in effect this week. I would love to see UCA pull the upset because I root for any FCS over FBS upset, but you got to play the odds here, and it's probably going to be Ole Miss.
I totally understand. I do think you talk about them looking past us. They're definitely not, because they're having to take it week by week right now because they're trying to find a starting quarterback. And so I really think they're kind of just their mentality is play the next game on the schedule. So I definitely think they're not looking past us, even though we're an FCS squad. Kennesaw State, Cincinnati coming off the loss at Arkansas, where they could not keep a helmet on to save their life.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you guys saw. Did you guys see the memes?
I watched the game.
Oh, it was bad. I mean, it was like every other play.
It was really bad.
There were and sometimes multiple players on the field at a time. Their helmets coming off, and the commentators were like, "What in the world?" It was bad. Sorry, Cincinnati probably wins this one.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say it's not even going to be pretty.
No, and Cincinnati has a good defensive line. I think they will be able to hold Kennesaw. I think they're gonna make Kennesaw throw the ball a little bit, and then it's gonna even get worse. So I'm gonna say big win there for the Bearcats.
Yeah, Cincinnati's gonna win big. So
see, I'm telling you, none of these games are like super fun right now.
The next one's fun.
It is. Mississippi Valley State, who just keeps showing up on the WACSUN schedule, at Austin P. And just because of my reaction, I got to pick the Govs. I got to roll with them big. I think they is it their home? No, they played Presbyterian at home. I think they win big.
Yeah, Austin P wins big.
Yeah,
DeLello, whatever his name is, the quarterback, DeLello.
Yeah.
However you say it. He has really impressed me. I've said that a few times. Even against Western Kentucky, he played really well. So I think he'll lead them to victory.
I'm gonna say 28 plus Govs.
Yeah. Yeah, probably so.
I hope they don't have a letdown game though.
I hope not.
Yeah. Not against Mississippi Valley State. I don't think that's gonna.
No.
It might, in a way, letdown. It might be to where they only beat them by like 14 or 16, and you might be like, "Wow, they underperformed." But I don't see Mississippi Valley State just having the legs to keep up with them and beat them.
Right.
Usually those letdown games too come after like big emotional games, like huge moral victory, like or close loss, or a win against a team you weren't supposed to beat, not necessarily a Presbyterian. So. Gonna roll with Austin P there. Hey, here's a good one. Huh?
Did we skip the Prairie View?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
That was the one I thought was upcoming. That's an interesting match. Honestly.
That will be good because it's at Abilene. If it was at Prairie View, I think I would pick Prairie View. But I don't know. Abilene didn't look great. I'm thinking maybe Lamar's not as bad as they have been, but I don't think Abilene is. I mean, it's kind of a rebuilding year, believe it or not. Like new coach. I don't know what you can rebuild necessarily. It's like maybe just a build from the ground up anyway.
Yeah, they surprised me. They didn't start Peyton Mansell, who I thought they would have back there because he's been such a dual threat for Abilene Christian. But instead, they started Maverick McAvoy, and they just didn't look as polished. Even though they weren't great last year, their offense looked better when it was there. And I mean, Prairie View's coming off of a nice win over Texas Southern. That's a rivalry game for them. They, it's the I mean, that gets them hyped. I could see going up to Abilene. I could see Prairie View beating them.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, I'm picking Prairie View over Abilene Christian. I think Prairie View will do it.
Yeah, in the Pick'em Challenge on FCS Fans Nation, this was a hard game to pick, and I eventually ended up going Prairie View A&M. I think I don't know if it's going to be like like a big win. It might be close, but it might not. It might be somewhere in the middle, like say 10, 13-point win.
Yep.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and pick Abilene. Not for any particular reason, but it's boring when we all pick this. So, I'm just going to play devil's advocate and pick Abilene, right. Which we don't have a game of the week, really, because there's not a great one. You guys want to pick one on the fly?
Eastern Kentucky at Bowling Green, game of the week.
I'm good with it.
I'm okay with that one.
All right. Eastern Kentucky at Bowling Green, which also happens to be the next game on the list. We'll leave it to the end.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and skip on down to Jacksonville State at Murray. This could be decent, but I don't think. I know Murray a year ago. What was it, a year ago, or was it the spring? They were decent.
Spring.
Okay. I don't remember how they did last year. I just remember the spring season because they
didn't do bad last year.
Again, Jacksonville State. They're too good, too deep. Mm-hmm. I do think you see the effect of having extra scholarships. Because the guys they're rolling in, there's no drop off.
Right.
So I think you guys get the win there at Murray State.
Well, not to even mention, like, we still have players on our squad, even though Rich Rod completely cleaned house as far as players is concerned. There are still some players that he put on this team that played against Murray State in the OVC. So it's a familiar foe for them, and those players are going to prepare the new players that have never faced Murray State. And this game is just, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be a 21-plus point win.
In the old Jacksonville State days, in the John Graw era, this would have been the game I'd pick Murray State to win, because Jacksonville State just stumbles when they shouldn't have, right? Like, that's just what they did. I want to say, Rich Rod has completely caused a paradigm shift there with coming in and doing what he's doing. So as much as I would love to see Jacksonville State lose just for the fun it would be on social media, I don't think it's happening this week. Jacksonville State's going to take this one. I don't know if it'll be 21 points or not, but Jacksonville State will take it.
Yeah, I think you're right about the previous era of Jacksonville State football, because if they started out 2-0, first of all, they would have been ranked like in the top 3.
Yeah,
because you guys were always too high, and or notorious for getting ranked highly for not doing a lot. And it would have been the game that I think got to your head, and you rolled in thinking you were going to win by 40 and then lose. But yeah, no, I think you guys are too good for Murray State. Speaking of, though, just an aside, have you guys ever been to Murray State Stadium?
Yes. I went in the spring.
Isn't it cool?
I actually like it, but I also said after that, when I recorded Cocky Nation the week after that game, I said if Murray State would invest in some away stands, that stadium would be one of the best, if not the best, on the Western Kentucky side. It would be better than Western Kentucky. It would be so freaking nice if they invested in some away stands.
The problem is that it would be it's already too big. I mean, with one side, it already seats twice the amount you need. And imagine if you put anything on the other side. Like, it would just be, there'd be nobody in the stands. I just think it's unique to see. It's like, I mean, there's other one-sided stadiums, but there's not one-sided stadiums that hold 25,000 people. And I mean, if that thing old, it'd be like a big house in Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
So
it would be really cool.
It would. It's pretty cool. We played there my freshman year. Very neat place. Virginia Wise at North Alabama. North Alabama. They're going to get their first win on the year this year.
Yeah.
This week, sorry. So
I agree. UNA will win this game pretty handily.
Yeah. There's not much to talk about here. UNA will get it.
Yeah. So game of the week that we came up with on the fly. Not our background. Background Southern Utah. Good job, guys, winning this week. Eastern Kentucky going to Bowling Green to play the Falcons. Falcons? Yeah.
Yes.
So give me your thoughts. It's not every week that you get a game of the week that is a FCS FBS matchup, but this one warrants it. So, Brandon, what are your thoughts? And then I know Rev's got some thoughts on this one.
Well, with how good Eastern Kentucky performed last week against another FBS team from the same conference as Bowling Green, I think Eastern Kentucky is going to use that as motivation and be able to prepare a lot better for this team. But also, Bowling Green is just a horrible team in the MAC. I don't think Eastern Kentucky is going to have any issues getting a win here. I'm picking the Colonels.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things with that. First of all, Eastern Kentucky did not have their coach last week because he was still recovering from his cardiac issue, and he's going to be out again this week. They're going to have Gary McPeak who's going to be running the team. And under him, I mean, they put up something like 492 yards of offense against Eastern Michigan. And Dakota Allen looked really good with 118 receiving yards. So to me, Bowling Green is just bad. I think they're one of the worst ranked FBS teams. I can't remember. I think they might be actually like at the bottom, legit. Like
they're
last
125 out of 130.
No, I'm pretty sure Akron is last.
But I mean, that's the thing.
But
so,
still,
yeah. So they are bad, and Eastern Kentucky is. I mean, it's one of those things that they could come in and do it. What's interesting is Eastern Kentucky's last FBS win was against the MAC team. It wasn't Bowling Green. It was Miami of Ohio back in, I think, 2014. And so and Bowling Green looked bad. I mean, they played UCLA last week and lost 45-17. They just don't look good. And I just think they're going to be easy win for the Eastern Maroons. So let's go, Colonels. I'm counting on you. Get a dub. Get a scalp.
Please.
So just looking here at the SAG rating, because that meshes together FBS and FCS. Eastern Kentucky's 155 and Bowling Green through here 145. So on paper, this is like a really good game. You talked about Dakota Allen, dude. That dude's a freak. He played quarterback a couple of years ago, and it was one of those things. It was like, okay, Parker McKinney's the better quarterback, but you got to keep Dakota Allen on the field. What are you going to do with him? Make him a tight end. And that dude, very underrated. It comes to like, it's not the sexy pick like for somebody to win the like Peyton Award, but he's going to have the stats at the end of the year to be considered for some sort of awards. But I'm going to go with Bowling Green. All that being said, just because logic tells me that the FBS team is going to win, and Bowling Green saw a Pac-12 team last week, albeit UCLA. They did see Pac-12 talent. So I'm going to roll with Bowling Green just because it's like you go from swinging a heavy bat to a light bat. I mean, the competition drops a little bit. So I think they because of now. Granted, Eastern Kentucky played an FBS team last week, but they didn't play UCLA. So I'm gonna roll Bowling Green just because my head tells me that that's the logical pick, and I'm down 0-2 in the game of the week standings, and so I've got to start like hedging my bets with the logical picks, or I'm gonna end up 0 on the year. I would love Eastern Kentucky. I would love Eastern Kentucky to win, but I've picked who I wanted to win the past 2 weeks, and it has not worked. So,
are Rev and I tied for first?
No,
no,
I think
you're
2-0, aren't you? Because you picked.
No, I picked you. I picked UCA last week.
Oh, you did. Yeah, we are tied for first. We are 1-1. So I should write these down.
Yeah, I am 0 so you don't have to write anything down for me other than I haven't picked anything correct.
That's going to be fun for you in Frisco if you lose this.
Oh gosh, I don't even want to know. Rev, do you have a rant?
Okay. I don't really have a rant, although I will say this. If anyone from the NCAA ticket office is listening, will you please get the damn pre-sale out so we can start getting our tickets? I've got my flight booked. I've got my hotel. I've got my car. I've got everything else. I want my damn tickets so I can be sure I'm in Rainbow Row with the rest of SCS Fans Nation. Let's get this going. I don't understand the delay. I don't know if you're waiting to see if it's going to be a Montana, North Dakota State sort of game, if you're waiting to get that almost crowd. But here's the thing. Right now, the schools that you think are going to be there, they're going to buy the tickets in advance. You're just holding out for no like discerning reason. And I can't figure out why, but it's really frustrating because I want to go ahead and get this going and be ready to go. So if you're listening, NCAA, or if you're listening, Sam Herder, get to the bottom of this. I know Sam Herder was investigating, but let's get these tickets on sale. Let's figure out who's going to Frisco, at least and who's sitting where, so we can just have that all sorted out.
Exactly. Everybody in our group has booked their hotel and or got their car and flight. But like, come on. I booked my hotel yesterday. I'm ready to buy my ticket.
Yeah. Yep.
That's like the Rev and Brandon and every FCS fan ever.
Literally.
Per week.
One other shout out though. It was Will's birthday the other day, so happy birthday, Will. You're looking good.
Thank you.
Whatever baby age you are, 22.
24. I am 24.
God, I'm 3 years older than you.
Dude, don't even start.
You're bumping like retirement age, Brandon.
God, you put me in a home at this point.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It was a great birthday. Didn't get to go watch a UCA game because we played on Thursday, but got to watch a lot of college football. So that was fun. I guess that is it for week 2. Episode 3 here of WACSUN Weekly. So thank you guys if you've made it to the end. We appreciate you sticking through the shenanigans here on Tuesday night. We some okay games this week, and we're looking forward to it. If you don't already subscribe to the FCS Fans Nation page, is probably what you're watching this on. If you're watching it on YouTube, go ahead and smash that button. You subscribing, just make sure that we can bring more content to you guys. And there's a ton of great podcasts on here, so check those out. There was one week that I named them all. I'm not going to try this week.
I got it.
Okay, go for it.
All right, we've got the Big Boy Show, as it's called on Sundays, the FCS Fans Nation Show, which if you go on and like the FCS Fans Nation page on Facebook, you can submit your questions and potentially have them answered. Some of the questions are really great questions, and then some of the questions are just trolling people. You've got Eagles Power Hour. You got the Up North podcast with Kyler and Chris Hammond. You got the Football Chris Show. You got the newest one, Fight on Montana. You've got Jack Rabbit Illustrated and or Splitting Hairs, whichever one they go by. All their merch is Jack Rabbit Illustrated, so we're going with that. But it's the A team with Matt and Dallas and Kyle, and then you got the B team, which is one of the best ones to watch and listen to if you haven't, with Brendan and Ben and Chad kind of running the show in the background. You've got Cocky Nation, which is another enjoyable one involving that soon-to-be FBS team, Jacksonville State. And you've got us, the WACSUN Weekly. I think that's all of them. And if I left
Yeah,
one
I think
out,
that was it. I think
if
you
I
named
left
all
one out,
14.
sorry,
I think you named all 14 of Chris's podcasts. So
don't show that. Oh, and there also is the Friday night live show. We can't forget that
Oh.
that Chris will sometimes put on as well. Although I honestly think we should just go live on Saturday mornings. I think that'd be more fun to do to get everybody in the mood for FCS stuff. But yeah, it's a great group of podcasts, and you should listen to. I know some people like to focus on some, but you really get a lot of knowledge about the FCS if you listen to some of the other ones. So I would suggest checking one out. Listen to Kyler's rants on Eagle Power Hour. You learn a lot about the Eagles through him. So I would just suggest that, take a chance. Go watch the Jack Rabbit Illustrated one that they recorded Monday night about the game against Iowa. That was a great show and a great game.
It is really fun. That's a great point about, like, when I first started watching them, I was like, well, I guess the only one that applies for me to listen to is the Big Boy Show, and then maybe the Football Chris show. But when you watch, like, I watched the Montana one the other day, and I was like, honestly, I don't care about Montana football, but it was like, that was kind of fun to watch. Like, I learned more about their program, and so then I went and watched the Splitting Hairs one. So yeah, a lot of great content. If you don't care about the team you're listening to, it's background noise. You learn something. It's a good time. It makes watching those teams more enjoyable. So definitely subscribe to the channel. Get a notification every time we go live or every time we post a video. So definitely do that. Join the Facebook page. Or follow on Twitter. Just make sure you're interacting. There's a lot of great content. So, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. And I'm excited for week 2. We'll have some games to talk about next week, and we'll preview week 3. And then we'll try to come up with something else fun. And we'll overreact to week 2, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. It was fun. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see everybody next week.